The outcry over rising intolerance level is only getting louder, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi today joining the chorus, invoking the 1984 Sikh massacre in Delhi following Indira Gandhi's assassination, that is. The Prime Minister, who's under attack from the opposition parties and the Indian intelligentsia, did say that the Congress leaders should hang their heads in shame for their past mischief instead of lecturing him on tolerance. However weak it may sound, Modi's defense comes even as the protest against the growing intolerance is snowballing into a national crisis.
Congress President Sonia Gandhi today met President Pranab Mukherjee seeking his intervention. In fact, the government has been on the back foot, facing criticism from all corners for inaction. From RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan to Bollywood superstar Shah Rukh Khan, or even Moody's for that matter, they've all been critical of the attacks on liberals and rising communal strife across the country. Many fear that Modi's counterattack will only stoke the fire. The national debate on intolerance and how it could come in the way of development, that's our top story on Business Tonight.
It started with the disgruntled writers, then the artists, scientists, even President Pranab Mukherjee. But the intolerance debate is now gathering ground even with the big influencers. From RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan to one of India Inc.'s tallest leaders, N.R. Narayan Murthy. And the opinion is unanimous. The message loud and clear. Don't stifle debate, do not resort to bans, win over the minorities and preserve India's plurality. But this has sparked off a huge controversy, with swords now being drawn between Indian industry on one hand and between industry and the film fraternity on the other. Attacks and counterattacks. The gloves are certainly off.
A Prime Minister who is authoritarian, who is the first Prime Minister to have centralized all decision making and policy making in the Prime Minister's office, who is disrespectful of the opposition, intolerant of criticism, and it was his obduracy which has led to a complete rupture of a dialogue between the government and the opposition. He has tacitly endorsed what is being said and done by his colleagues both in the government, in the BJP and in the RSS.
कहा जा रहा है कि यहाँ पर इंटॉलरेंस असहिष्णुता बढ़ी है, तो वैसे कौन कौन से ऐसे कारण हैं जिन कारणों के आधार पर यह कहा जा रहा है कि असहिष्णुता बढ़ी है? हमारी सरकार जाति, पंथ अथवा मजहब के आधार पर नहीं चलेगी, बल्कि इंसाफ और इंसानियत के आधार पर चलेगी.
In fact, Modi's chief lieutenant has attacked the opposition for the Prime Minister being the worst victim of ideological intolerance. But amidst this noisy debate, crucial questions emerge. Are those who are raising these issues hurting growth, or are those who are not distorting India's conscience? Supriya, Shrinate, ET Now, New Delhi.
Let's take the story forward for a detailed discussion on this whole intolerance debate. We're joined by two very special guests with two differing opinions. Mohandas Pai and Gurcharan. Mohandas Pai, of course, joining us on Skype from Bangkok, and Gurcharan from New Delhi. I want to start with you, Mohandas Pai. Do you agree that the narrative has changed from development to communalism? Everybody today is talking about communalism and not development. Everyone's talking of intolerance. Do you agree that the narrative has changed, and who do you blame for this?
Well, I think a section of the left and left of center intelligentsia and a section of the media has been carrying on a tirade against this government on various issues like communalism and this so-called growing intolerance. If you look at the past, it started with the vandalism against the churches, and that grew up, but nobody gave data as to how it started. It's all vandalism. Then some senior religious figures told all of us on TV that in West Bengal, when the rape of the nun happened, that is all a part of this agenda of this government, which turned out to be false, and they never came back because the rape was by an illegal Bangladeshi immigrant. And then now we have this growing narrative of growing intolerance. The key issue to ask is, where is the data to say there is intolerance in our society which is growing? Yes, there is intolerance. There is intolerance in every society around the world on various issues. But we need to have data as to where is the growing intolerance? How has it suddenly expanded? There was an unfortunate incident in Dadri of a particular faith. Then there was another faith which a person was killed for protecting against cow slaughter. And there's been the burning of those children belonging to the Dalits. And there have been some other events. But these are not a sign of growing intolerance. Now, what happened in Mumbai was Gundagiri, or the failure of the rule of law. It is not growing intolerance because Mumbai has been hostage to this political party for a long time. And they keep indulging in these acts of violence now and then. And the state does not seem to act at all. And because of this enchantment about growing intolerance without any data, I think it's surprising. Right now I'm in Bangkok in a business meeting with a large international forum. People are asking me, what is this growing intolerance? And I told them that the data doesn't support this. So I think this narrative is hurting India's image overseas. Unless people give data about growing intolerance, I think it's all a narrative of certain Western sections. Of course, there's certainly some business leaders, and that's very sad because the leading business icon also came on TV and said that, and I tweeted and said, please show us the data, because we should go by data and not go by this opinion. And the leftists are giving these awards. It's a sad thing. They got every right to do that. But, just to pinpoint the murder of one rationalist in an opposition rule state, the murder of a person of a different faith in an opposition rule state, and to say there's growing intolerance in this government is wrong. There are some loonies in this fringe elements, part of this syndicate, part of this government, which have to be silenced. But, they've been talking the same language for many years. So I think, we have to be circumspect.
All right, just the fringe elements, and when in doubt, do blame the media. That's the word from Mohandas Pai. But Gurcharan Das, who would you blame for this change in narrative? I mean, A, do you think it has changed?
Well, yes, the reality is that it's a form of distraction that we don't need. Successful nations are purposive. They have a single-minded purpose. And so what started as a story of development has increasingly been distracted by this. Now, how this affects investment is frankly not clear, because investors want basically a stable, predictable environment. They don't really care about the politics of the country. And so to that extent, I do not think that it will have a major impact on investment. But the reality also is that stability in India, the threat to India does not come from within. I mean, it doesn't come from outside of India. It comes from within. And one of the reasons why is that the Muslim population of India is a moderate population. In fact, of all the Muslim countries in the world, India's Muslims are the least jihadized. So few Indians, I mean, this surprises the world that a country with 160 million sent so few people to fight for ISIS. But if this rhetoric today, the discourse of the RSS and the saffron people alienates Muslims, then you will find them getting more and more radicalized, and that will pose a threat, and that hurts investment, because then it may lead to instability.
Mr. Pai, I'm going to go back to the point that you were making, and a certain chieftain that you were referring to is, of course, your former boss, Gurumurthi, and he has said that there's considerable fear in the minds of minority in the country, and the government needs to bring back a sense of confidence. But you continue to ask for data. What kind of data do you need for an incident like this?
Well, a narrative is about communal intolerance because it's been building up. As for what happened in Mumbai for the cricket, the Shiv Sena has been saying it all along. They've been doing all these incidents. There's nothing new. They're not allowing any Pakistani artists to play in Bombay for a long period of time. There's nothing new, right? And what happened in Dadri is an isolated incident. Have there been repeat incidents all over? And Dadri is an opposition rule. The SP, if there's a conspiracy, SP should catch those conspirators, put them behind jail. They have not identified people who are supposed to be conspirators. They have got some 6-7 people who are supposed to have done that. Let them do that. See, the key issue is we must distinguish between growing intolerance as a systemic issue and the absence of the rule of law. Bombay is a clear case of the absence of the rule of law. The Shiv Sena has been having this agenda. They're practicing it, and the government is not acting. That's not growing intolerance. Dadri is an isolated incident. Now, if some of these BJP legislators have made extremist statements, let the SP government arrest them and put them behind bars. Yes, the government should speak up. The government has been speaking up. Maybe they should do more. But we should not malign the country just because there is an ideological fight between the left and the right. There are isolated incidents. Incidents have been there throughout. Please go back in history over the last 24 months, look at data, look at all the historical events and see whether there's increasing increasing. There's a trend. I don't think there's a trend. In Karnataka, where I come from, the minorities don't live under fear. Tamil Nadu, they don't. Andhra Pradesh, they don't. Telangana, they don't. Kerala, they don't. West Bengal, they do not. Northeast, they do not. Rajasthan, they do not. Gujarat, they do not. I don't see any increased incidents. Himachal Pradesh, they don't. UP, yes. There have been some incidents in Western UP. And in Maharashtra, it has been in Bombay because of a particular party. And in Bihar, there have not been incidents. There have been Dalit rape incidents. So what are we talking about as a country? I mean, we have 1.27 billion people. Let's not exaggerate isolated incidents and blow it up all out of proportion. That's why I asked the gentleman to show us data, because he always says in God we trust, for the rest to bring data. I think people must be circumspect. Yes, we must ask for the rule of law. We must ask for justice to be given to the victims. We must ask for the perpetrators to be punished by law. And that is very necessary. But the law should operate. The law doesn't operate. What do? That's the tragedy of this country, that the rule of law has been weakened by all political parties for the last 50 years. And we must ask for the rule of law to be ensured. But to speak about India in a way as if India has changed the last 15, 18 months is a total exaggeration. And we should be very careful before we go about maligning India, because there are many people working against India's interests. And these people are falling into the trap. And it's very clear when you travel overseas. Today, for instance, a very senior economist asked me, what about this rape incidents in India? Then I told the lady, look at rape per billion population. Rape is bad, it will be punished. India is not at the top, right? Look at data. And exactly, we must have a sense of proportion. Let's not blow it up. We must protest. We must ask for justice. We must ask for rule of law.
Gurcharan, comment on that. Just to be the devil's advocate, and if we were to buy Mohandas Pai's argument, would you also blame lawlessness or the inability of the states, or is this real intolerance that we can't really shy away from, that we can't turn away from? What is your view?
Well, first of all, I think intolerance is a hard word to use, because, you and I are debating quite freely about this. If we were an intolerant state, you and I couldn't talk like this. So there's a huge amount today of negativism that people are expressing about the situation related to communalism and so on. So I would say don't use the word intolerance, it's some other word. The second point is that, yes, I think for us, the kind of India we want is an India where all communities are comfortable. And it's easy to call it a law and order issue. Of course it's a law and order issue. Of course governance is a problem in India. But the reality is that if your discourse is constantly of a certain kind, then it does bring out these negative features in a country. And that's why I feel Modi should be much more proactive, that whenever an incident occurs, he should condemn it the way we all condemn it. We elected him for development, and we are getting distracted by all this. And frankly, I think even Bihar, people say, oh, but because of the election in Bihar, this is happening. That's not true, because, in fact, if he wants to win Bihar, he has to win the undecided vote. The undecided vote is usually in the middle. The people who believe in the beef bans and all that, they're already in his camp. So the beef bans are not going to help him get more votes. It's the tolerant view, it's the plural view. It's making everybody feel that development is what he stands for. That's what will win him votes.
But, Mohandas Pai, I want to take this forward. Intolerance is no longer restricted to just, intellectuals returning their awards or authors returning awards, but even, eminent citizens. We spoke about Narendra Murthy. Let me throw another name at you. Raghuram Rajan, now raising the fear of growing intolerance in that, splendid speech over the weekend. The finance minister calls all of this a bit of a manufactured rebellion, but can we really call it a manufactured rebellion? Such eminent citizens, in a sense, speaking out. This surely can't be a manufactured rebellion.
I hope you read Raghuram Rajan's speech. I read the whole speech. The speech was given in IIT convocation, And he spoke about the clash of ideas and how for an economic system there must be free flow of ideas, not in the context of what is happening in this country, in a very general context. You please read the speech very carefully and then tell me how does it refer to all these incidents. It doesn't refer to the incidents at all. Please read the speech. Nobody has read the speech. I saw a film actress tweeting, oh, even Raghuram Rajan has joined two other luminaries. She has not read the speech. You please read the speech, read it out to all your viewers and ask them whether the speech has any correlation with the incidents that Raghuram Rajan spoke. He made a general remark, and the remark is very good. And he spoke about political correctness. Please, political correctness is very different. And he spoke about keeping the system open for ideas for change, ideas for different things. And he spoke how India should become a country where people can debate ideas. We are debating ideas on TV. Has any book been banned? Has any TV channel been banned? Has anybody been arrested for saying, oh, we don't like this? Nobody. So let's not exaggerate. Read Raghuram Rajan's speech, please. You read the speech and then let's debate the speech.
Mr. Pai, I actually have read that entire speech, and I think with the ongoing things, I don't think he's making an off-the-cuff remark. But let me take this to Gurcharan Das there. What do you make of Raghuram Rajan's statements? He's otherwise very cautious about what he says. This is not an off-the-cuff remark like I'm saying. He spoke from a prepared text, very well thought out. He obviously knew he's going to be quoted out of this. So can anybody now call it a manufactured rebellion? Can anybody say we're putting his views out of context? He's not really referring to what's happening in India. I mean, how can he ignore the narrative that there is around him?
No, I think I'm very glad he is talking about it. And that's really a tribute to our democracy. And that's why I said that country is not turned intolerant. We are all talking what we feel like it. We are saying it. And the fact, I don't personally agree that artists should return their awards, because I think that's an insult to the institution that gave them the award. And there should be other ways to protest. You should differentiate between a government and the state and the institutions of the state. And hence, I would not do that. But that maybe is a fine line here. The reality is, I'm delighted that Raghuram Rajan and others are speaking out. Modi has to realize that every political party has an extreme wing to it. And in the conservative parties all over the world have an economic right and a cultural right. Now, both sides help to bring the leader to power. And in this case, it wasn't just the Hindutva people who brought Modi to power. A lot of people bought his message about jobs and so on, and they voted for the BJP, they voted for him. Now, his job is to achieve that mandate. And he has to, good leaders, for example, Margaret Thatcher kept control, or Reagan, they kept control of the cultural right of their parties and focused on jobs and on development and so on.
I'm running out of time here, but I have a final question for you, Mohandas Pai, because we began this discussion, you asking for data. And if Moody's analytics does matter, then it has warned the Prime Minister about the rising levels of intolerance, and that how can that further actually stall reforms? Is that the red flag that the government needs then?
Moody's, if you look at the Moody is a 92 economics graduate. He made some unwarranted remarks without data. Please, Moody's is not on the job of making political reports. Okay, I'm speaking to investors. I met investors in New York. I'm going to New York again next week. I spoke to a lot of people in the last 1 month. I've been on calls for raising capital for funds. None of them spoke about this. We don't have to worry that an isolated incident is going to hurt India's image. Please, let's not exaggerate that. You should know better too, because you are in the economic field. You ask pointed questions. For example, Zubin Mehta came, you ask him pointed questions and go on targeting that, he's going to make a remark. Absolutely, he's going to make a remark. You don't talk about his music, about what is happening, make pointed remarks. So I think, my view is there's a concerted campaign by a section of the media and a section of people to do it. We must go by data. Let us be objective. Let's not make it an ideological fight, because if you make it an ideological fight, it becomes political. What is the core issue? The core issue is the lack of justice in India. The core issue is the lack of rule of law in India. The core issue is the inability of victims to be rehabilitated. That we must settle. What's happened to Muzaffarnagar? Everybody's forgotten them. They're still out in the open, in the fields without rehabilitation. Who's supposed to do that? Why are these people not talking about Muzaffarnagar? That is the issue. Let's talk about the rule of law. Let's talk about enforcement. Let's talk about justice. Then we can settle the society. That's where we are weak and we are way behind and we are falling behind. And that is a big worrisome trend, not is growing intolerance. In Bombay, a political party is hosting the people of Bombay. Why can't you put them behind bars? Arrest them. The government should arrest them, put them behind bars. Let us demand it. Let there be justice in Bombay. Let there be law and order in Bombay. They should not blacken somebody's face, allow somebody to come. They must be penalized severely. And if the political party is carrying out violence, ban them. You got the rule of law. Let's have courage. Let's demand that. Nobody wants to demand that. So let's not malign the country for isolated incidents around the country. Let's be objective. In my state of Karnataka, there is no fear. West Bengal, there is no fear. Please ask Mamata Didi. In Tamil Nadu, there's no fear. Please ask them. Madhya Pradesh is the fear. Please ask the people there. Let's not take Eastern UP. Eastern UP is not India. Delhi is not India.
Mr. Pai, I don't think anyone's intention is to malign the country, whether it's Narayan Murthy, whether it's Raghuram Rajan, or whether it's us here at ET Now. The intention is to question the government, question those in establishment on whether they're doing enough to ensure that we don't become an intolerant nation. You spoke about Maharashtra. Incidentally, the party that did this vandalism is the party that's a part of the government here in the state of Maharashtra. But we leave it at that. Let our viewers take form an opinion on that big debate. I can tell you we'll have many more such debates on this issue of intolerance. Mohandas Pai, thank you so much for joining us from Bangkok. And of course, Gurcharan Das, thank you as well for joining in with that quick perspective.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.